Yeah, thank you for that opening statement, Chief Moore. The chair will now recognize members for 5 minutes for their questions, and I'd like to start with a few questions here. Chief Moore, the Forest Service's fiscal year 24 budget includes a $3 million cut to landscape scale restoration projects while increasing electric vehicle charging infrastructure by over $60 million. Regarding the $3 million cut, your own budget justification states, and I'll quote here, "This decrease would reduce the number of projects with tribes, states, and other eligible partners by 12 projects and result in reduced land treatment and restoration activities on non-federal lands based on prior year performance data. It would reduce planned funding for tribes by $1 million, which is one of 10 key priorities identified in the USDA Equity Action Plan. Past performance of projects supported by the Landscape Scale Restoration Program have demonstrated success in reducing wildland fire risk, improving forest conditions, and mitigating impacts from insects and disease, and leveraging public and private resources. Why is the Forest Service prioritizing funding for electric vehicles over wildfire mitigation efforts for tribes?"
Congressman, I'm not sure that we're prioritizing the use of electric vehicles over any other part of our programs. I think what we're trying to recognize is a growing trend that we're seeing across America. And that growing trend, based on visitors that we're seeing coming to national forests, is that more of our visitors are having electric vehicles. And this is an opportunity to provide them the ability to plug in when they visit some of our, particularly our more popular sites. And so it's a small opportunity to try and address all people's connection to the land, which I mentioned in my opening statement.
But Chief, wouldn't you say you can tell a person's priorities by how they spend their money? So you're spending 20 times as much on electric vehicle charging infrastructure, which is basically a gas pump. And we normally have businesses purchase their own gas pumps, and here we are going to spend this on the electric vehicle gas pump and reduce the amount of spending for landscape restoration projects, including for tribal entities, which I thought was a priority.
It is a priority, and you know, Congressman, you mentioned in your opening statement that HAZ fuel reduction is less than last year, but you know, last year our enacted amount was about $207 million, and this year it's really at $322 million. And so we're not seeing a reduction in HAZ fuel treatments. We're seeing an increase in our opportunities to treat more of these acres on the landscape, because we've all recognized that we have an emergency situation out there, and we need to be doing more work rather than less work. And so our efforts are really aimed at increasing the amount of work that we're doing on these landscapes.
When we met recently, we talked about a bill called the Acres Act, where we want to get an accurate amount of what hazardous fuels reduction is going on by the Forest Service. And give you a quick example, the Forest Service's initial landscape investments progress summary reported 132,000 acres have been treated in priority landscape in Arizona last year. However, the Regional Forest Service reports only 88,000 acres were treated last year. How do you account for the discrepancy of over 43,000 acres in that situation where you're counting the higher number, the regional people are sending a lower number?
So the data I have, Congressman, is that we're actually treating almost 4 million acres per year. In fact, last year we treated about 3.7 million acres. When I look at what our plans are this year that we're in, and I've met with all the regional foresters, we are planning to treat about 4 million acres this year. And we met, and we meet monthly. And in fact, as soon as this meeting is over, I'm going to be going to Colorado to meet with all of the regional foresters and my deputy chiefs to look at our ability to treat more of these acres. But so far, they've projected to be at 4 million acres treated this year.
If I could ask one more question before my time gives up. So it's really concerning that the agency is inflating progress here when you see these discrepancies. Last fiscal year, the Forest Service sold roughly 2.9 billion board feet of timber, which is down over 10% compared to pre-pandemic levels. What steps are you taking to increase the amount of timber harvested on Forest Service lands? First of all, is it acceptable to continue to see this decrease to you?
Am I allowed to answer? We ran out of time. Okay.
You go ahead and answer it, sir.
For context, over the last 3 years, we've been right at about 3 million board feet a year. In 2022, we were at about 2.8 million. We increased that last year to about 2.9. This year, we're looking to be somewhere around 3.4 billion board feet. Our goal is to get at 4 billion board feet by 2027, I believe. So we are on an increase in the amount of timber that we're planning to produce. And that's a part of what I was mentioning earlier. We've added accountability in the system, and that's one of the reasons I meet with all of the senior line officers in the agency on a monthly basis to look at what those challenges are and what is it that we need to do to eliminate those challenges.
Is the reduction acceptable?
I'm sorry?
Is the reduction acceptable?
No, and I'm not seeing a reduction.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll do some follow-up questions.
May I follow up, Congressman? There are many things that gets in the way of what we're able to do. Fires sometimes burn through areas where we've already gone out, did cell prep. Litigation is another one of those areas that sometimes limit our ability to accomplish what our targets and goals are. So there are other things that gets in the way of us accomplishing that, but the work on the ground is occurring, but there are other things that gets in the way of actually, to get to the bottom line.
I recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes. Mr. Levin.
I'm not
Welcome.
Mr. Nagoose.
Welcome.
Good to be with you. Thank you, Chairman Tiffany. Before